Hey guys, it's Jack here today, and today I'm going to be doing a album review of Immolation's Close to a World Below. So we have the brand new album Descent coming up tomorrow, which I have ordered to my house. I did a home order from HMV, and I've been thinking, what are my five favorite death metal albums? And I think Obituary, Cows of Death was my number one for the longest time, but I think with time, Niall's Annihilation of the Wicked has overtook it, as has Close to a World Below. But I'd probably I would still put Cause of Death at number 3. And my other two are Autopsy, Severed Survival in at number 4, and Cannibal Corpse's Tomb of the Mutilated at number 5. Those would probably be like my essential 5 of all time. Some close seconds would be Morbid Angel's Covenant. I can't think for now. Maybe Behemoth's Demigod would be somewhere there in the top 10. But my all-time favourite, which is what we're focusing on today, is Close to a World Below. I have been obsessed with this album recently. And I think storytelling wise, riff wise, this is one of the darkest albums ever in death metal. This is some serious stuff, and this is one of them albums that you can't just casually listen to in the background. This album requires serious concentration, and like not only to the lyrics but to the riffs. This is music for, clearly made for devouts and only devouts, for sure. Immolation isn't, a mainstream band, and we like them that way. They make real, honest music for us serious enough to listen about this music, right? This album is fucking incredible. I'm just going to say it off the bat. Released on the 7th of November 2000 on Metal Blade Records at a length of 41 minutes and 57 seconds. I've got it all written down just so I remember all the details, as, some YouTubers don't collect, information, and do your research is what I'm saying. It goes a long way when talking about metal and, music in general, but especially with metal, right? So we open up with Hire Coward, and right off the bat, you can tell Immolation is not fucking about, right? I mean, what a fucking serious opener this is. And you could say the same thing about the whole album, for sure. This is actually my favourite release from Immolation. I like the first 4 all almost interchangeably. Dawn of Possession, Hereinafter, and Failures for Gods are also absolute perfection, but I think this one is the crowning masterpiece as Immolation's discography goes, to be honest. So Hire Coward opens, and you're clearly right off the bat, this is not music to just throw on in the background, and it really isn't. This is serious death metal, and that's exactly why I think it's overtook some other albums which I mentioned. This is an album that would instantly scare off newcomers, for sure. This is not easy listening stuff. But yeah, there is some clear lyrics about abuse and neglect and anger and overcoming stuff. I haven't probably gave this album enough listens to really comprehend everything. But yeah, off the bat, this is serious death metal, and I love it just for that. Father, You're Not a Father is the next song, and this is the one where you can really hear a lot. I mean, you can hear it through the whole album, but there is a clear... I'd love to know in the comments section what this album's actually about, because there is clearly a backstory to a lot of the lyrics in this album, and yeah, they were clearly going through some stuff, I don't know, in their personal lives, whatever, but Father, You're Not a Father is an absolute crusher of a song. I think all-time favorite death metal songs, that's top 3. I think just in terms of sheer, like, we are death metal and we are not gonna fucking change. You know, this, as I said, this is real death metal. You can't get any more real than Close to a World Below. Carrying on, Furthest from the Truth. I'm not going to fuck about. Like, we're just going to carry on with the album review here. But Furthest from the Truth is next. Another one of my favourites. One of the best riffs on the album, I think. And then we have Fall from a High Place as well. Again, incredible playing on this album. And I think the more I've got into death metal, as I said, this is not entry-level stuff, and it's took me a while to get here, so if you're new to metal, don't force your way into stuff like this. Like, I've had people say they're into Iron Maiden in the past and then go straight to death metal. Don't do that. You know, it's took me a while to get here, as I'm sure it has other devoted metalheads. You know, this level stuff is not where you start. And I know some people have made that mistake or accidentally heard something too extreme too early on. This album is one of the best of all time. Don't get me wrong, but get there in your own time. Because as I said, this is not a starting point regarding metal at all. But one of the best of all time for sure. Fall from a High Place is the next track. As I said, riff machine, this whole song. Whole thing is incredible. And so I've obviously done my research on this, and 8 songs in total. So I'm assuming that would be side A if you had a vinyl. I don't actually have a copy of Close to World Below yet, but that will be changing. Trust me. And side B, we have Unpardonable Sin. And again, these lyrics, like the band, I have been obsessed with Immolation recently, and I think to know some of the backstories behind these songs would just probably make me love this album even more, because they were clearly going through or expressing something very personal to them with this album. Unpardonable Sin, one of my favourite songs. Lost Passion is next. I don't really know what to say. I'm just going to say they're all great songs because they are. We'd be here all day if not. Lost Passion is another great song again. And let's just talk about Put My Hand in the Fire. That riff. Yeah. Like, it's albums like these that still boggle my mind. I think, how can you honestly play this good? And I do have the new album, as I said, pre-ordered. And I remember, like, this was one of my first Immolation albums, along with, like, the earlier ones. I started with the earlier ones. As I said, this isn't where you start regarding Immolation, let alone death metal. You know, this is not beginner level stuff. But, Jesus, that riff. And I think that's why, as well, the 2000 stuff following this album just never did much for me, because they raised the bar so high on Close to a World Below. Put My Hand in the Fire is one of the best riffs on the album, as is the epic title track to finish the album, Close to a World Below. I think it's about 10-11 minutes in length. And album rating, well, we're obviously going 10 out of 10. But I will say, as I've said throughout this whole thing, this is not entry-level stuff, but if you love death metal and you want, like, one of the greatest albums in the whole genre, in my opinion, you know, if you don't think this is the greatest, that's fine. But for me, I think in terms of musicianship, complexity, you know, in the riffs, like, I think albums like this are hard to explain because they're that just enormous sounding. I mean, it's albums like this that, you know, come around once in a lifetime, I think, Close to a World Below, and it really is, I think, as time's gone on, #1 death metal album of all time, and I would say all-time favourites in all of music in general, Obviously, I listen to loads of music outside of metal as well. Been listening to a lot of Beatles recently. But I think in terms of metal, sorry, in terms of all-time favorite albums, top 20. Number one in death metal and top 20 in all of music for me. Incredible album, and yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. If you have any other albums you want me to review, I could do a review of Annihilation at Wicked, as I know that album front to back. But as far as Immolation's discography goes, this is it. Close to a World Below. It doesn't get any better than that. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.